Hi everyone, this is Amsterdam Comic Geek speaking, and today I'm going to show you the comics I bought in August. So this is going to be a short comic book haul video. And I bought them all at cheapcomics.com. It's my favorite store when it comes to online shopping. And although this vlog isn't sponsored by Chris from Cheap Comics, he always adds extra comic I can pick out because I make these little videos. So thank you, Chris, for that. Most of the stuff I bought are Spider-Man related because Spider-Man is my favorite character and I like to keep tracks on what's happening in the Spider-Man's world. And this is a great trade. It's called Spider-Man Daily Bugle and it's about the people working at the Daily Bugle. And these are different kinds stories. These are different stories by different artists and writers. And I had the first one. Look at this. I had this first one as a single issue, and I was curious how the story ended. And then I saw Chris had this trade for sale, and I thought I need to read the rest as well. And look at this introduction page. It's great. It looks like a newspaper page, and I'm fascinated by Spider-Man's world and also by the characters that live within that world and the supporting cast. So I'm fond of the Daily Bugle staff, and I'm curious about the adventures they experience in the Marvel universe. And I love this black and white art. It looks fantastic and I love it. It's great because most newspapers were in black and white back in the day as well. And I read this story. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful to read stuff that happens to Spider-Man supporting cast. So that's number one. Symbiote SpiderMan. This is a tie-in with the King in Black event, and I haven't read anything about that event, actually none of the other comics, but I'm a fan of Symbiote SpiderMan because I love the black costume, and I think Greg Land and Peter David are doing a wonderful job on this series. So even though I'm not familiar with the King in Black storyline, I figured I want to read this comic. So, very curious about that. These are just two of the regular Spider-Man trades of the run by Nick Spencer. And it's a bit hit and miss, I think, this run. Spencer sometimes his stories are really dark and serious, like Shattered Web, which is a continuation of the storyline with Kindred, his enemy Kindred. And then this one is more, I don't know, written for kids, one could say. There's more jokes in it. Peter is living with Boomerang as his roommate and Randy Robinson, and they have this creature, Cog. This is what Cog looks like. And it's a bit, I don't know, so it's a bit childish, I suppose. It's a bit too Disney for my taste sometimes. And I wonder who the target audience is of this run. Because look at this art by Mark Bagley, it's great. I really love Mark Bagley's Spider-Man art. This is a serious story and there are some familiar themes in this story. The Osborn versus Parker story, sort of. It's a theme we've seen many times before. Still, Nick Spencer adds something new to the mix, and we got this great pencil art of the covers. I love those extras. And that's great to look at. But it's really, the whole Kindred thing is really dark. With Peter Parker almost losing it again because Norman Osborn, as you know, is his arch villain. Like I said, these are familiar themes. The Osborn Norman Osborn making Peter's life miserable, and Peter is retaliating in this issue pretty much. So this is really dark, and then we get like fluffy Disney stuff in the second volume. So I'm not sure who the target audience is of Spider-Man. My guess is it's still teenagers, and I'm not a teenager anymore, so this is more for the youngsters, and this is more for the old Spider-Man fans, I guess. But if you have different opinion on that, I'd love to hear it, because maybe you have a totally different view on Nick Spencer's run or Spider-Man stories, and I'm curious about that. I was curious about this issue, Legends of Marvel, the Avengers. These are a couple of short stories by different art teams and writing teams. And I saw Peter David and Roger Stern, Roy Thomas, Walter Simonson, Tom DeFalco, and a couple of other familiar names are working on this. These are all just short stories, basically. Roger Stern is probably my favorite comic book writer of all time. So anything new he's written, or anything old he's written, I want to read. Looks good though. So I'm curious about this. Thunderstrike. This is by a winning team, Tom DeFalco and Ron French. And I love their Spider-Man run, but also their Spider-Girl runs. And this is a different kind of Thor. Eric Masterson was the first to wield the enchanted mace called Thunderstrike, and he sacrificed himself to save the world. But what happened to the mace? Has it been lost for all eternity, or does the world still need heroes? Has the time finally come for someone else to follow Eric's journey and take on the mantle of Thunderstrike? Join us as the Marvel Universe welcomes back the everyman Avenger Thunderstrike. Well, that sounds interesting. Are you a Thor reader? Do you like Thor? Or is he not one of your favorite Avengers? And have you read the Thunderstrike storyline back in the day? I'm curious about that as well. And Chris added this one for good measure. The Resistance, issue 1 of 6 by J. Michael Straczynski, who also did a very interesting run on the Amazing Spider-Man back in the day. But he's also a writer who created Babylon 5, the TV series, and in the earlier days of his career he worked on Masters of the Universe animation of Filmation and The Real Ghostbusters, to name a few properties. But look at this cover. I don't know anything about this series, but the cover looks great. And speaking of great looking covers, I really dig the cover by Mike Mayhew and Andy Troy. This one, the one we started this video with. I just really dig how Spider-Man is sitting on the street lantern reading the Daily Bugle outside of the Daily Bugle building. I think this is a wonderful illustration. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe if you like the stuff I make. And please comment on the books you saw, if you've read them, if you liked them, and if there's a favorite character of you somewhere between these pages. I'll see you guys at the next one. Cheers.